So how many of you were born in during the pandemic? And then Gautam, your company was born in pandemic, right? And so just wanted to, kind of you started it, fundraise, team building. Like, how did you do all of that? It's incredible, right?
Yeah, it's been quite an insanely good journey, I would say. I was just joking when I said that there are human years, dog years, and entrepreneur years as well. So yeah, UpScalio started not more than 5 months ago, I would say. 6 months ago, I was employee number one. And you're absolutely right. We've been, touchwood, very lucky to have not only raised capital, significant amounts of capital, but also partner with a bunch of companies and build a team of 80 plus people. It has been a challenge, no doubt. Building an organization, especially one where you're bringing on people that have the same degree of ambition, same degree of passion, and a shared culture is challenging, but it's something that we focused on quite dearly from the very beginning. So as we brought on co-founders, as we brought on senior leaders, that was something that we tested for and made sure that they tested for that culture fit when they went on to hire. It's still not easy, guys.
Incredible job. I mean, I'll just go to Sakshi. So the topic is, innovation and tech, and you are in the car subscription business, which is, in my opinion, very challenging, and everybody needs it. I don't know why people buy cars, by the way. It makes no sense.
I see.
Because it's an asset you don't, you highly utilize, underutilize. 80% of time is parked in your house or office. So just the journey when you came out of cars on rent, is, incubated there. And also how are you making decisions in terms of, India is such a vast geography, who is going to rent what? Because I know Delhi people love to drive in BMWs, and Audis, and, South India maybe a little bit, less so. So how do you decide all of that, and how you got incubated? It'll be really nice to understand all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So I think primarily, I completely agree with you. I think buying a car or owning a vehicle is actually becoming very last season. And we've been saying that for a while now. We started as a car sharing company when we were incubated within Cars and Rent. That was back in 2014. Over the years, what we realized is actually not only were we supposed to, and we were meant to solve the problem of short-term car usage, we wanted to, and we needed to change the way ownership itself was happening in the country. Vehicle ownership, therefore, came with a lot of gaps, which we wanted to solve. And these gaps existed right from the discovery of the kind of vehicle that you want, then the procurement of that vehicle, then managing the entire life cycle for a customer, and then the disposal of that vehicle, which means when you sell it off or you return it somewhere. In each of these cases, the customer today has a lot of vendors, partners, service providers to touch base with. What we provide is Myles, and what we aim at providing is a singular technology which enables all of these steps to happen at the click of your phone through an application. As a customer, therefore, what you get is a complete getting away from the headaches of ownership, but having the, bringing, we usually, I like to say that we are bringing back the pleasure of driving instead of the headache of driving or the headache of owning a car from customers. And so really, there are 2-3 things that we do. One, of course, is the front end for us, where in terms of technology, we are getting together all the entire ecosystem of ownership together, right from OEMs, which means car manufacturers, used car dealers, workshops, insurance companies, emergency assistance services, roadside assistance services. So we're getting everyone together on a singular platform for the customer to be able to utilize, just a single app to you for everything. Secondly, from a customer's perspective, you're really taking a call of your monthly budget for utilizing a vehicle. Instead of deciding this is what I'm going to spend on my EMIs, this is what I'm going to spend on insurance, this is what I'm going to spend everything else, you're really deciding I want to spend 20,000 rupees a month on my car. Yeah. And that's the decision that you make. The other thing, of course, that we are doing is we're introducing a lot of technology inside the vehicle, which allows us to track the customer. And by tracking, I mean making the experience a lot more customized for the end user, and also help OEMs, sort of build better data as far as the vehicle is concerned. On the point of which city and what do we sell and how what customers are buying in each city, we have seen that because our model initiates an enablement of the ecosystem by getting each of the OEMs together. We're actually putting together every touch point where a customer comes to purchase a car, whether it's online or offline. So we do work with dealerships and OEMs directly. And giving that customer another way of owning a vehicle. So up until today, the only way of owning a vehicle was if you could go and pay up the cash up front or take a loan on it. But we're sort of saying, hey, you know what, just subscribe to it. You don't have to worry about any other costs really. So we are getting a lot of BMW and Mercedes drivers in Delhi. But we're also getting a lot of Thar drivers down south who really love to have, the off-roading trips.
Yeah. No, I'm driving a rental car, just so that you know now. So,
yeah, we still need to provide you one.
Yeah. So I'm quite happy. I don't have to deal with any of the mess you said, insurance, etc. So just coming to Pratik, you first, and then so just they're your customers, and what's happening in the ad tech side, because they raise money and they go spend in Google and Facebook. That's really bad news. They get rich by day. So are you providing them new sources? What's happening? How are people acquiring other sources of acquisition, etc.?
First thing, getting rich is a good thing. Whoever is getting rich. But no, I think what the last 3 or 4 years has done, at least the digital ecosystem, is that it's absolutely accelerated the growth that we were expecting would come in 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, right? I think a lot of what we've seen in the last 15 years has been money that has been spent on habit formation and habit change. So whether you're talking about the Olas or the Ubers of the world, or whether you're talking about, like she's saying today, renting cars and or subscribing to cars, or whether it's about just pure play e-commerce, right? A lot of the money that was spent, the money was spent in changing that habit. And today we're seeing the fact that the habit has changed. We probably would have assumed that this habit would change in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. There was no way I was convincing anybody in my house to get vegetables and groceries from an e-commerce platform. Today, it's acceptable behavior, right? So a large part of what business model disruption was required, the pandemic has enabled, especially on the digital side of everything that we are looking at. And every business, right? So we've been talking to the CEOs of everybody, because everybody says, hey, we need to be on digital. We need to do something on digital. But fortunately, unfortunately, we got their full attention when everything shut down, because, hey, I don't have my clear distribution channels. I do not know what my dealerships are going to look like tomorrow. Do I need to look at smaller store sizes? Do I need to look at bigger store sizes? Shit, what do we do on digital? What is my digital strategy? And while that's great for business for me, and because we're obviously going to be solving a lot of these problems, what also started to happen is that a lot of businesses started to reinvent their business models on its own, right? A lot of brands came from mother brands, which were digital only brands. A lot of business models were primarily focused to, people that will not get access to this product, which otherwise you would have said is 3rd generation digital, 4th generation digital, right? We as an organization talk about a narrative called Naya Bharat, where we're saying we're 600 million people on the internet. We're going to 1 billion people over the next 2.5, 3 years. They've never seen content. They've never consumed content. What is their medium? What is their consumption? What will they buy? What is their lifestyle upgrade? Is it a 10 rupees soap going to 11 rupees or 12 rupees? Or versus for us, is it a 1,000 rupees soap today? So a lot of the innovation has happened both on the digital side, where you're talking about advertising technology, marketing technology, where because a lot more money is being spent, everybody wants to be able to control it. Fortunately, unfortunately, we're still talking about antitrust policies and monopolies with Google and Facebook. So they will continue to take away a majority of your share. But a lot of countries, including ours, are pushing them to set up organizations over here. So the money remains in circulation. But overall, for digital and digital distribution, the last 2.5-3 years have been fairly path-breaking, both from, you've seen the number of unicorns that have come in over the last, it's a joke, right? Like today, earlier they used to say, throw a stone in Bangalore and you'll get an engineer. Today, you throw a stone in one of the metros and you'll get a unicorn, right? I mean, it doesn't even matter what you're doing anymore. If you have an idea and everybody has money, you'll probably be a unicorn, right? It's no longer a imaginary animal. It's probably right here somewhere. Maybe there are 3 right here somewhere. And if you look far enough, you'll see an IPO somewhere as well, right? So businesses have really disrupted themselves and people have started to put money behind disruption in businesses, because I don't think that the business models will remain the same. To give you context, NFTs became such a big conversation point. Everybody said, hey, I'm buying something on the blockchain. I can't hold it. I can't touch it. I can't show it off. Why do I do it? Cut to 2 weeks ago, Zuckerberg announced Metaverse. Now I'm researching on how to buy land in the digital ecosystem. I don't even care about buying land in Bombay anymore, right? So the world is changing. The world is evolving. What is motivators? What is not motivators for people? It's the greatest time to be an anthropologist today, because the way that human behavior is changing is super hard to predict. But if you're in that space, it's also the best job to have. So for us, it's amazing times, because I think we do the best job in the world. We're exposed to everybody's business model. We need to understand everybody's business model. Everybody writes beautiful business plans. We have the fortunate or unfortunate task of executing them. So we also know where the gunk is, right? We also know where the cogs in the wheel are, and it's our job, using tech, using people, using just basic common sense sometimes to allow it to move. So it's been beautiful 2.5-3 years. I've definitely aged. So from a 27-year-old boy, I've become 30.
I should definitely spend more time with you. See which companies you can invest.
Absolutely. That's what I do for a living now.
Yeah. I just want to come. You come from a very different business in terms of providing bags, which is very essential. How did you see during the pandemic? Business, did business go down? How did it come back? You probably have the pulse on the the offline traffic, right? So love to hear and a little bit about your journey. How you got to this idea. Very different kind of business. Yeah, please.
So the pandemic really affected our business in a positive manner, and we had to do a lot of changes to our business model, as well as we had to do a lot of changes to just provide the amount of increased requirements of packaging material, because everything was getting home delivered, not just in India but across the world. In fact, paper mills in India have given up that we don't make enough paper to supply to you guys.
Did the price go up for paper?
Yeah, 30%. And in the last 10 years, it went up by only 10%. So that was also a very big issue. And due to supply chain issues, material for recycling could not come in. So I'll just clarify over here. There's a very common misconception that most of the paper requires trees to be cut. But in India, we don't have those kind of trees. So all the paper mills, at least 90% of the paper mills, either make agriculture waste into pulp and then make paper, or they recycle paper which is imported from outside. So that makes our paper the most environment friendly paper in the world. So all of the perili which is being burnt in Punjab can be used to make paper, and we can make paper bags out of it and supply to the entire world for it. So on the HR end, what changed, because most of our employees are minimum wage or above that. During the first wave, everybody panicked and went back home. We had to support them back at home also, because they've been working with us for so many years. We can't just they're going back because of a reason not related to them exactly. It's a global problem. So we had to support them in a very different manner. And most of the companies of our industry, which we know, have supported their employees much better than what I could see in corporates. this led to a lot of um, interest from ex-corporate employees to want to come and start small businesses like ours. So this pandemic has really changed the entire business model of ours by one, providing us a lot of growth, and two, providing us a lot of angel investors who want to get into this line, who are looking for people like us to support them by doing a joint venture or something to get into this. And because our supplies, our customers' requirements are supporting us, so we're growing in that manner. We've changed our business model from just being manufacturers to being aggregators, buying from companies which we co-own. So that's what's really changed for us.
Thank you. That's great. So Angad, sorry for keeping you waiting, but what's happening? What tech are you using in the facilities? That would be very interesting because we have delivery. They use a lot of warehouses, etc. It's becoming almost essential. Yeah.
Thank you, Tej. So I was actually looking around and I felt, I think Sakshi and I come from the dinosaur world because we worked on, cars on rent being that first one incubating. And I think facility management's prehistoric era business. And nobody finds it sexy. Nobody finds it exciting. We're not rolling up anything. We're not buying and building. We don't have the same access to capital. Nobody finds it enough valuable, even though we make money. We make money on every transaction that we do.
You're sitting with a paper lifafa manufacturer.
The way actually,
you don't have the right to say that.
and thank you for mentioning that because the same challenge that you mentioned about blue collar workforce. Globally, we have 80,000 employees, and guess what? 75,000 of those employees are in India. So when COVID happened, it's just 1st of April. I said, "Oh my God, we're going to have an exodus of people walking away because we don't have jobs. We don't know if they'll have jobs." And this was across the country. Pockets like Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore, go work from home. Schools, with the only exception of manufacturing core businesses, automotive, e-commerce, deliveries of the world, everybody has basically said, we want to shut shop like there is no tomorrow. And I remember a conversation with this cinema hall chain, which happens to be India's largest PVR. He said, we don't know what's going to happen. And we were just planning that, there's this movie for couple Dev, I think it's called 87 or 83. वो आज तक release नहीं हुई है, but वो release होने वाली थी before COVID. And we were planning for this big bang release, and we're planning for scaled up operations. So this is what we had to sort of live through, deal through. But what we did in this sector, and I've been only in this space for 7 years, and this space has been there for donkeys of years. You'll be surprised to hear there are 15,000 facility management companies in India. We're one of the most unorganized sector. 30% of the market is organized, 70% is unorganized. No gifts for, or no points for guessing that government sector is probably the most unorganized sector, because up until recently, agar aap AIIMS jate, if you visited AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, you'll see a government employee using phenyl and cleaning the floor. Not that any of us have had to visit, but this is what it was all about. So what we did 7 years ago is we said, one, we'll have to change the perspective of what an organized player looks like, since there is no model of what an organized model looks like. Two, we need to ask our customers, stop telling us that give me 100 people, give me 200 people, give me 200 cars, ye laga do. What do you want out of it? Do you want your property to be maintained at standard of an Oberoi hotel? Do you want it to be, just fit for work? We used to call it fit for work. So, we're working in a factory. I don't need it to be mopped every second hour. So fit for purpose, fit for work. We went through that journey, defined, helped customers to move that journey, added our secret sauce of tech. There is no fancy tech. All we did was 5 years ago, people used to fill up paper forms for opening a bank account and finding a job. 3 years ago, we made it all digital. When we onboard about 2,000 employees a month, there is no paper form. Everything's digital. There is no address mismatch. Their Aadhaar card is recorded right there. And guess what? When demonetization happened, this was my light bulb moment. When demonetization happened, and we had to run payroll for 75,000 employees. And I remember that evening, I was in Bangalore that night, staying in a hotel, and I got this news from television, like many of us, I hope. And I said, I don't even have enough cash for the Ola tomorrow, and I have to go to the airport. Wo kaise karenge? So, and I phoned up our, my CTO, and I said, how will we do it? He said, boss, don't worry. We're paying 95% people through bank transfer. Because you remember that 3 years ago, we did that onboarding function, which you really killed us on. That's what we did. And that's why we sustained, this period and this.
A lot of tech, that's great to hear, facility management company. Gautam, coming back from, Lifafa, which is very essential, by the way, to going to Mensa, becoming $1 billion. So, so your industry, like it's lots happening, right? So what's the thesis? Why is it getting valued the way it's valued? It's kind of, the VC in a way, right? You're picking up various brands, and then you're clubbing them together and, hopefully, putting stuff. So I would love to hear for people also, like what's in there, right?
That's a great question. So just for some context for the audience, where our ambition at UpScalio is to build the next generation digital first, analytics first consumer goods giant. Now, traditionally, the way that the Hindustan Unilevers and the Procter and Gambles of this world have worked is that long ago they identified a white space in the market in fast-moving consumer goods, be it food, be it beverages, be it beauty and personal care, and so on and so forth. And then over a period of time, they built this brand. Now, what's cool about our model is that it enables hypergrowth, especially in the Indian context. So rather than us, so in our ambition to become this house of brands, rather than starting D2C businesses from scratch, we go out there and we look for promising businesses that have already solved the product market pricing fit problem, are selling on marketplaces such as Amazon and Flipkart, and have demonstrated that fit by getting high ratings on 5 stars, high number of reviews, not only proven kind of their unit economics at the CM1, CM2 level, but actually shown that this can be a sustainable business that generates meaningful EBITDA margin. Finding these companies and partnering with them, right? Either taking a minority stake or majority stake, and then shouldering the responsibility of scaling these businesses up. So coming back to kind of the valuations question, right? So normally it would take quite a while for a consumer goods company to achieve meaningful revenue, right? In the 6 months that we've been around, we've now partnered with 5 brands. We'll partner with 5 more in the next few months. We're already, even if I look at August, our annualized run rate is at $25 million, right? 175 crores. So that is kind of the pace at which you're able to grow. And that is because we are essentially acquiring revenue. Now, the other reason why this is such an exciting model, especially in the Indian context, is because in the West, in this roll-up space, the story is very much around acquiring businesses to achieve scale, right? Because those roll-up e-commerce models are operating in markets where the growth rate is for e-retail between 7 and 10%. In India, on the other hand, the base growth rate is 30 to 35%, right? And if you partner with category leaders, look to partner brands, look to acquire brands that are category leaders, these guys are sometimes going at 80, 100, 120% year on year. We're not talking about small base numbers. We're talking about companies that are 3 to 5 years old. So this combination of the fact that you're able to quickly build up a sizable business by acquiring a sizable business which is profitable, which is not a common phrase in the startup or e-commerce world, and you're able to scale that up rapidly by continuing to accelerate growth. I think that's what drives the excitement amongst investors in this sector.
I mean, scale is one word which obviously every investor looks for. So since we have a lot of panelists, what I'm going to do is just one rapid fire kind of a round. And you have to keep the answer in 2 words. I didn't discuss this before, so it'll be interesting, right? So what are 2 words that come to you for your business, which pandemic taught you guys, like 2 words? Like for me, it was patience and valuations can be nuts during pandemic. I never thought, by the way, the rush of IPO that will happen during the pandemic. It's incredible what happened, So in a way, it gave India, 4 years, in my opinion, like 4 years leapfrogging because everybody had to go online. To your point, and do something. So yeah, so 2 words. We can start with you.
Sure. Thank you. So I think the 2 words is betting big. We had this wonderful opportunity. COVID, every disruption, every problem has an opportunity. You find the silver lining, you bet big, then here's an opportunity for you.
I just spoke, so.
I'd say consolidate while disrupting. I think I don't think we have the ability to do either of them. We have to do both together. You have to keep consolidating what you're building, and you have to keep disrupting as you go. Otherwise, you won't survive.
I think the 2 words that come to my mind is, one is enablement, because of how quickly we were able to enable the entire ecosystem during the pandemic in terms of OEMs, etc. I think the other is, I would actually agree with patience, but I would also say a huge amount of aggression. You had to be absolutely aggressive towards telling people why this would work. So
yeah, patience as investor and aggressive.
As
makes sense.
Yes, correct.
For me, the 2 words would probably be, first would be HR, focusing on HR, and the second would be actually focus, because we actually got some time out from our day-to-day to think where the business is going. So that is something which I would personally be regularizing in my practice. Take out time just to think. Don't do anything else.
So my 2 words would be e-commerce hypergrowth. Categories such as fashion, beauty and personal care, consumer electronics, etc., are now well-penetrated categories in India. Now, when you talk about kind of general merchandise categories such as home and kitchen, appliances, furniture, and so on and so forth, because of the pandemic, the willingness for consumers to make those purchases that they ordinarily would not, we've gotten over that hump. It's e-commerce hypergrowth.
Thank you. So, I mean, one thing we always forget, and I want to bring this up since I have the opportunity, is, personally, how challenging it is to run a company, and especially during, tough times like, COVID, etc. I mean, sometimes we unappreciate a lot of, toil and hard work that goes into it. So I just want you guys to reflect on more, not the business aspect, but the personal aspect of, managing your businesses and your personal lives. What were some of the, things that you kind of significantly changed, or what change it brought in? And they could not be nothing, or they were something, which I would love to hear from leaders like you guys. So Angad, you want to start first? Okay, you can start from that side then.
Yeah, so on a personal front, something very important which changed during COVID was focusing on health, not just my health, but of our entire team's health, because that is the most important thing. You can have as much money as you want, but if you don't have health, what's the use? And apart from that, just what I spoke earlier, getting perspective of what exactly do you want to achieve is something which came out of all of this. And we want to create a company which lasts 100, 200 years. So the only thing which can last across centuries is culture. So we decided to focus on our company culture and actually understand what is it exactly. We're around decade-old company, and we had no idea what our culture was till we got some time out to focus on it.
So we come from an industry which was the first thing that everyone said when COVID happened was stay at home. And the one thing that we get people to do is step out of their houses. So literally the first thing that happened for us is that everyone was just sitting at homes, whether it was corporates or people, on the streets. And therefore, the first thing, therefore, that happened for us, while everyone else was thinking about how to get work online and do video conferences, I was probably thinking about what do I talk about to my people, because everyone's really sitting at home. There is going to be no business for some time at least. But I think what it taught me really was to really be a lot more fierce in how you can think about business, to really be able to encourage the teams to think about what more could happen. Luckily for us, this was also a time where for the first time in forever, car manufacturers did zero business, which was fantastic for us, by the way, because I mean, as much as they have cried about it, we actually got an opportunity to get car manufacturers to start thinking about newer ways of selling cars. And that's what sort of kicked us off on a path to changing our business models, encouraging the teams to think differently. Part of it also came with culture that we were then trying to develop, which was really of aggression, really of thinking outside of what we had been doing for so many years. So yeah, I think it was a journey to evaluate what we've been doing so far and really make changes for the next many years to come, because I don't think we are off COVID yet, even though we're sitting right here. But yeah.
Thank you. I think for us, very early on, the one thing that we did correctly is that we defined the values with which we want to run this organization. And we did it, I think, about 4 years ago. For us, the pandemic was a test on whether we can stick to those values that we actually put together. So our values are, obviously we're in advertising, so it's coined as Ice Cube. So one of the biggest values that I think got tested was empathy. And empathy is, I think, is the singular principle with which we approached the last 2 years. Some of the things that we did backfired. Some of the things that we did really, really well for us. Some of the things potentially could have resulted in great things for the people we did it for, but we don't know about it, and I don't think that we'd like to know about it. For me, the day we went into the pandemic, and I remember this, and everybody, the only first question that people asked is how much money is there in the bank, right? Because you don't know the next time money is going to come into your bank. The second decision was that how are we distributing this money, and how long do we hold on to this money, so that we know what runway we have. And that's a very strange place to be in. Like for us, we're privately held, we're not funded, we're debt free. We've grown this business from $1,000 to over about $35 million, primarily on building a cash flow business. And suddenly there was no cash in the cash flow. But obviously, who to protect first, who to protect second, who to protect third. There's no right or wrong decision, but decisions, fortunately, unfortunately, had to be made. We went through with that process. You also understand and you take away the role that people in the organization play to enable this. Right? For me, it was a great lesson in the fact that when you say leadership and leadership teams, what the teams bring to the table, what they're representing, who they're representing, what they're saying. For me, the fact that we had people who believed in the same values as we did became fairly very evident. The decisions were hard, but the decision-making process was not hard. And therefore, what we did could have resulted, like I said, it was a toss-up, right? Anybody who was making a decision at that point in time had a 50-50 chance, right? I mean, we could have been Virat Kohli in this World Cup and struggled. But really what we were trying to say is that we made decisions with people at the core of what we did. Very early on, we realized that people came from very different backgrounds, and that's the reason they didn't want to switch on their cameras on a video call. These are not problems that we faced, right? But these are real world problems that people were facing. Where in the creative space, I could stand on top of somebody's shoulder and say, "Logo idhar se udhar kar." Today, I can't. That people were not sleeping on time. People didn't know when work ended. People didn't know if they were able to put food on the table. Um, I think that's the reason I said that you got to disrupt and you got to consolidate, right? Like we had to look after our people. We were the first agency, actually probably one of the first companies in August of last year. We gave what we call a wellness leave. We said that, we've all been working too much because we're in the digital space. Everyone wants to talk to us. We're going to take 1 week off. Whoever the hell wants to talk to us, talk to the CEOs of the organization and make the bloody call. We'll see what needs to happen. Whether it benefited people, didn't benefit people, you'd never know, right? But the intent has to be correct, and I think that's what we did correctly, and empathy was what we did, was what I believe we did right, and that for me was the biggest victory of the last 18
That's
months.
great. I think empathy is one thing I take back for sure. Yeah.
So very quickly, I know we're running out of time, but see, it's as I mentioned, been a crazy ride. 16th of March this year, I was employee number 1 and only at UpScalio, and now we've built a team of 80 plus people, professionals with deep expertise across the e-commerce value chain. And a lot of people ask me how we were able to do that. And the simple, without basically falling over and passing out. And the short answer to that is surround yourself with very, very strong leaders. I'm very lucky to have the co-founders that I have, the senior leadership that I have. And we worked very hard to ensure that the first set of people that we brought on board, and then it all cascaded from there. Most of the people that we have in our team are through references. Touchwood, we're a great place to work. So invest in leadership early on is my learning.
From that perspective, very overwhelming. Unlike many businesses that could operate from home, and in some ways we also had to do that. We were the essential workforce, so our people had to be out. Google Meet won't work, Zoom won't work if the data centers that we're running don't work, which means our workforce had to be there. Whether it's Amazon delivery, Flipkart, Big Basket, Ecom Express. I mean, you could see the entire list of things. These businesses could not run. My most unique experience was looking at the cargo terminal at Delhi, where we saw packages after package of oxygen concentrators and vaccine just going out of India in that early beginning of the year, and then coming back to India, as generosity came all across. So we didn't have this luxury of being at home and having that space. We had to be outside. We were scared. Teams were scared. We didn't know what we were dealing with. There was no vaccine, 2 masks, 3 masks, sanitize this, sanitize that. It was not easy. And if as leaders, we were not outside, I couldn't have asked my members of my team to be outside. I have children, they have children as well. So from that perspective, it was very challenging, very overwhelming in that sense, very emotional in some spaces. The good thing that came out of it, we made a lot of decisions that we wouldn't have made otherwise. It forced us. We didn't have an option. Back against the wall situation. We made decisions in this year, which we probably didn't make in the last 5 years. We pushed forward the agenda in terms of what we want to do 2 years ahead. And most importantly, we listened to our middle leadership, which is almost always sometimes ignored. And we got some great ideas where we bet. And these ideas actually, when we bet, were helped us sustain longer, keep more cash on the books. Funny thing, we actually went debt free during COVID. And I had bankers calling us to say, do you need more money? And I said, no, we've just gone debt free. There is no debt. So you don't need money? I said, yeah, we don't. But that was a unique thing, which I, as a takeaway, I said, for all that overwhelming emotional moment that we had to go through as a team, this is what we got out of it.
Great, thank you. So I've been told I can ask one more question, and if you guys can keep it 2 minutes each, I'll really appreciate it. I think we talked a lot about past and what has happened. I want to focus on future now a little bit as you look into your businesses. How do you, as leaders, as CEOs, how do you guys look in the future? Because, you said COVID is not over yet, right? And as you're going and building your business plans, presenting to, your internal employees outside, how are you guys thinking about it? I would love to. And how do you, in the same token, look at the India opportunity? 73 unicorns now. There's a lot of excitement. Do you see that continuing? Or, well, Paytm IPO was not, the best, although I think it'll probably come back, but how you guys see it? Yeah. So whoever wants to go first, I'll leave it up to you. But keep it 2 minutes. Thank you.
So for us, our industry is very much customer driven, and as e-commerce is growing, we have to grow with it. Most of the larger startups have committed. They're no longer startups. Most of the larger companies have committed to a 100% paper-based packaging or removal of single-use plastic. So for us, growing not just in India but also globally is paramount right now. We are actually looking at starting manufacturing units in America so that we can serve that market as well. So that's where we are.
And you're optimistic in terms of the India story?
We are absolutely optimistic in terms of the India story. Since we are researching the American market, we realize that Indian packaging market, paper market is so small and it is not developed at all. In America, if you go and if you want to buy paper, you'll probably not find any company which has spare capacity because consolidation has happened in a level which you cannot even imagine here. Some company has merged with a carton manufacturer, and the carton manufacturer is picking up all of the paper mill supplies of that particular company. There are paper mills which have 14, 15 factories across America. In India, you don't see that. And I think a lot of capex is required, a lot of governmental help is required to hardcore Indian manufacturers in order to grow. Because right now, as I said earlier, we don't have enough supplies of paper in India to keep up with the e-commerce demand of just India. And new companies are not coming in because of the extremely stringent laws created by the government of India. And even if they want to, they have a higher cost of setup. And that cost of setup is has to be funded from somewhere. And the organized PE and VC world is not really looking at manufacturers right now. So that's my.
So I'm going to flip and actually answer the question on the India story first. The overall, if you look at the overall penetration of vehicle ownership in the country today, we have about 22 cars owned for every 1,000 people. This number happens to be about 550 in China and about 400 something in the US. Which means that there is a significant penetration still possible in India in terms of car ownership or vehicle ownership per se. Our positive outlook about the India story is essentially that. And really the answer to that is how do you make ownership more accessible and solve the problems of ownership? That's exactly what we are trying to do here. The other opportunity that we see also coming from the regulators in the country is a lot of the EV adoption that's happening in the country. While there is still a limited number of EV four-wheelers that are coming in amongst the two-wheelers and the commercial vehicles, there's a lot of EVs that are coming in the market today. What we are seeing is that because of the high cost of these vehicles at this point in time, subscription actually becomes extremely interesting for all of these customers. And therefore, we are, extremely bullish about that story for sure. I think on the other end, as to how do we intend to focus on the future, we have, during the pandemic, learned the importance of enablement, learned the importance of getting the ecosystem alive. And that's what we're going to continue to do. For us, everybody who falls in the value chain of a vehicle ownership is a partner to us. We are not in the business of disrupting a market by letting go of certain players that exist. We're actually in the business of enabling every player to come with us. One of the things that's come to us in a lot of ways, because we partner with a lot of car dealerships, for example, the future of car dealerships across the world, with the Teslas opening their own showrooms and all, is something that is hugely questionable. The dealers today in India are actually very encouraged by opportunities such as subscription coming their way. When we go and offer them our technology, they're far more encouraged to say, hey, at least, that'll allow me to um, really enable a lot more and be ready for the future. So I think those are some of the things that we're really trying to do as far as the future and, the India story is concerned.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I thought that when we started out in 2008, we were fairly early, right? But I think we're sitting at the intersection of past businesses, present businesses, and future businesses, all wanting us as a horizontal requirement. For me, whether I'm sitting in India, whether I'm catering to the US, whether it's an India story, the world is going to progress. And fortunately for us, we're going to be a part of that progress. So for me, because we're running specialized verticals of digital agencies that do differentiated things, and whether we do it in the form of acquisitions that we're making or joint ventures or homegrown agencies that we're creating inside the network, we are that specialized horizontal that every business requires, either to survive, to sustain, or to grow. So for us, it's just about how many people can be put together who can provide a consistent level of service and output, because the demand is, I don't think the demand is going away anytime soon. So I'm happy.
So extremely bullish about the India growth story, especially in context of e-commerce. I talked about hypergrowth. And the interesting thing is that the future isn't very far away for us. The future is now. So, for example, I talked about the fact that, fashion, consumer electronics, etc., have already been well penetrated, and utility segments is where the growth lies. Let me just give you an example. So, one of the companies that we partnered with is Green Soul. So it basically manufactures and markets ergonomic chairs, gaming chairs. Now, this person who founded this, Ravi Kushwani, incredible growth story. FY19, 5 crores in revenue. FY20, 15 crores in revenue. FY21, 37 crores in revenue. And next FY, along with our partnership, we're going to be easily north of 100 crores in revenue. And that's just one brand in the utility segment, right? Focusing on chairs, right? So if that kind of niche can create businesses of that scale, given the fact that as consumers in India, our willingness to purchase these kind of general merchandise categories continues to increase. Immense opportunity. Very excited.
Yeah, I just want to add to your business. When I think about it, to me, it's a C2M, basically manufacturer to consumer, or M to C, like kind of what you guys are doing. Is incredible. Yeah.
Maybe a little different perspective, where for us as a business, we're seeing this COVID period as a reset. We saw it as a reset of what we can do, should do, and the world should look like. For us, in some way or form, we are already in the new normal. And another phase of COVID won't deter us or get us off our foot. Our business is traditionally recession-proof, because whether you're in growth stage or recession stage, you still go to school. You don't shut schools and we manage schools. You still use the airport. You need all these utilities to be run. You don't turn them off. So that makes our business somewhat sustainable, recession-proof. It's sort of a you keep collecting your coupons. Yeah. It's a very annuitized business, traditionally, how I see it. So what we see is the next few years, and this is our plan as well, to double our business, backed on consolidation in our sector. There's immense pressure from businesses to standardize, cut costs, to be more rational about cost, as businesses are looking at the future of workspace. Businesses are, struggling to deal with the new regulatory framework, the new labor wage code, which many of us, will deal in our own ways. I'm sure Adeera will deal in his own ways, but a large workforce will be ground paths, changing in terms of what we're doing. So it will help us almost double our business if we are able to maintain a discipline in terms of what we do, take advantage of M&A opportunities, and see the unorganized market shift almost from 30% to 60% to organized. India, absolutely very bullish. I was always has been. I don't think we always, as an economy, have found growth. You just have to choose as a business which pockets you want to be in. I loved cinemas, and I found a lot of growth there. And cinema is a unique story. A visit to a cinema hall is not just a visit to a cinema hall where you pay 500 rupees a ticket to sense. An average family of 4 spends 5,000 rupees in aggregate, including the parking ticket, to food, to the popcorn, and everything in between, to a cinema hall visit. And this is revenue all across. So I now see a lot of growth in e-commerce, 3PL logistics, data centers. I mean, these are just, sunshine sectors for us. And we're already seeing them during COVID almost double up. So there's immense amount of pipeline and capacity that's coming up. So we're absolutely bullish about what we're going to see in India.
That's incredible. So happy to hear the common theme of bullish here. And as an investor, I also think there is no other market like India. If you look at world, there are, US, which has 472 unicorns, China, which has 172 unicorns, and India has now 72. I mean, I'm not trying to say unicorns is everything, but these are the disrupting businesses which you guys are creating. And as an investor, if I'm not playing in India market, I'm not doing myself a justice, because there's no other place where you have 1.3 billion people, which needs to be served. It's a great TAM, as whether which sector you want to pick and what cut you want to take on it. I'm really thankful to all of you guys for a very candid discussion. And it's very exciting to see what all you are doing. And thank you to Business World for bringing us together, and hope the audience found this useful. Thank you very much.